Hello, Wasteland! And in today's episode, we are looking at buzzsaws and circular saws and all sorts of saws, but specifically the saws that you stick on your cars as weapons. So let's say you've got your new hobby project and you go, oh, this is a nice car, and I've already got ideas for what kind of weapons I'm going to be putting on there, but I definitely know I want to have some sort of buzzsaw stuck on the front or on the sides to, jab at my opponent's cars. Well, what options do you have? I mean, the easiest option in the world is to simply open up your bits box and go, okay, well, what do I have that looks like a buzzsaw? Well, there's lots of different manufacturers out there now who make little buzzsaw looking items, and you could go, okay, that's good, that's cool. I could just, stick that on there and call it a day, or if I've got two, I could stick a couple on there, and that's one way of doing it. Or maybe, from Zynga Industries, you've got some of their really cool little buzz saws. But I do want to point out they only have one of these in each kit, and I don't quite understand that. Because say I want to stick that on the wheel of my car and make it a really lethal tyre, oh well, I've got to buy 3 more of that same kit now just for the one buzzsaw each time, which is a bit of a shame. Maybe you're a bit of a 40k nut, so you've got some of the old Orc 40k chainswords. You go, yeah, that looks pretty gnarly with the teeth on there. I could stick that on there, or maybe these Katachan Sentinel, tree cutting saws, and you could stick those on your car, and that would look really, really ridiculous, but also really lethal. But sadly, they're more chainsaw sort of shapes, and that's not to say that the stuff I show you today won't allow you to make chainsaws. It's just, well, it's not a buzzsaw, is it? That's not what we're going for. And it's like, okay, maybe you've got some of the Sentinel, or Killer Can buzzsaw bits for the Orcs, and the Dreadnought close combat weapons. It's, oh yeah, look at that, it's fantastic. But if you've only got one, it's a bit poo. You need more than one. So the idea today. Oh, and before I forget, there's another trick as well I've seen people do, and that is to use teeny tiny little cogs. And you find these in all those sort of friction powered and wind up toy cars that you can get from Poundland. And I've seen people just sort of stick that on the front of the car and be like, yes, it's a buzzsaw, it's a buzz 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 buzz. And that works, but it doesn't really have the same kind of look or feel or the teeth of a buzzsaw. So today I'm going to show you 3 different ways, in kind of increasing levels of difficulty, let's say, on how to make buzzsaws. So let's jump into it. Okay, so in each of these 3 techniques, you're going to need Plasticard, of course, to actually make the buzz saws and circular saws. I'm using just a kind of middle of the road thickness. I think it's like 0.5 millimeter or something like that. And to actually make them, we're going to need circles. So we're going to cut, in this case, 28 millimeter sized circles. I'm just using an old Warhammer model here because I think everyone has access to those in their bits box and collection. 28 millimeter, it is a big circle. Ideally you want something smaller, but for visual purposes this is nice and big and easy for you guys to see what I'm doing, but you can just scale this down. Best thing about Plasticard, you can just cut it with scissors, so just roughly cut around the circle that you've drawn. Don't worry too much about it being neat. I mean, if you want this to be exact and perfect, by all means, take your time and just go around this nice and slowly. But if you're not worried about that, just cut around it and keep the little bit of plastic. For the first example, we're going to be making quite a straight buzzsaw blade. Like, it's nothing special, it's just a disc with a sharpened edge to it. And to do that, we're just going to cut away a little burr along the entire outer rim of the circular disc. If you've ever seen like a picture or a video of a buzzsaw or a circular saw that's in motion, that's the kind of look we're going for here. It's like when people like they make aeroplanes or model helicopters, and they'll model the actual blades of the propeller to be in motion. It's that kind of idea, but as a circular saw instead of aeroplane propellers. One thing you can do if you want it to be extra smooth and neat is take your time, but you can also use a needle nose file and just go around the cuts you've made, the burrs you've made, and just straighten them out. Now, vehicle-wise, to demonstrate this, I'm going to use this lovely knockoff, dirt cheap white transit van. In this case, police. Yeah, it's not the best model, but you know, it's a nice cheap car that a lot of people have access to. And if we just cut these circular saw discs in half, we can just glue them on either side of the van and make it look like they've been installed internally and they're coming out the sides. If you've ever seen the Dawn of the Dead remake, it's kind of like that scene where they're in the school bus and they poke the chainsaws out and they're cutting the zombies up from the inside out. Yeah. And you get to use like the different mold lines and things that are already on the van rather than having to make your own. So here you go, just glue it together and it's pretty much just ready for painting. I mean, I'm going to throw some extra bits of Plasticard detail on there, but then yeah, let's see what it looks like done. And here it is. And I've painted this up in the Warden style for Gaslands, so this is meant to be one of those coffin car type vehicles, inmate number 59, because I thought it'd be a nice change. There you go, Sao Paulo Correctional Facility. And yeah, it's one of those things. Even with the simplest technique, if you paint it up, you can make it look good. Moving along, we're going on to the next technique, which will require 2 Plasticard discs. And for this technique, we're going to be cutting the teeth separately and then gluing them to the discs. So most of you are probably figuring this out just from looking at it. But very simply put, I've got some little strips of Plasticard here from the same bit that I cut off the sheet. We're going to cut out some rough teeth-shaped bits. These don't have to be identical. I mean, with a lot of this stuff, with the scale we're playing at and with the fact that these are all Wasteland post-apocalyptic cars, it doesn't have to be neat and perfect, but you can spend the time and measure it all out, by all means. And then simply take some needle nose pliers and just twist those off. So you've got your little teeth, and you're probably going to make about 12 of these in total to go around the circumference of each circle. You don't need too many, but if you ever make some that you think aren't quite good enough or long enough, just make some more. It's super easy to make. Okay, so attaching these to our discs, we're going to do them one at a time. That's the best way to do it. And we're just going to put a bit of super glue on the sort of tab part of each of the teeth. So the bit that's going to be obscured inside the disc. And we're just going to stick them on in the cardinal directions initially, so north, south, east, west. Put the 4 on there, and then it's easy to just go around and slowly fill up the gaps, rather than trying to start in one place and then try and trail it all the way around, and it's not quite even, and then they're in mismatching places, and yeah. But it's just super easy. If you thought the other technique was easy, oh my goodness, this one just takes a bit more time. But yeah, again, super easy. Anyone could do this, and you don't even need to use Plasticard, to be fair. You could use cereal box card or chipboard, or you name it. You could use that to make these. And yeah, so just glue them on there. And there's an option here. You could leave these exposed as they are and then put some like rivets or little details on that side, and have it deliberately there, or you can cover it up with the plastic disc on the other side and make it look like it's recessed in, almost like a chainsaw. I mean, it's the same kind of modeling technique to do that. So here's two that I've made, and yeah, they're not the neatest things, but they certainly get the message across very, very nicely. And the best thing is, if you make multiples of these, unlike the just plain discs, you could stagger these up and you could see through the gaps between the teeth on the blade, and it looks good. And you can reverse them. You can do all sorts. They're very fun and very easy to make. But like I said, 28mm disc, these are enormous, so by all means scale it down. It works just as good on a smaller size disc. And just go along with your knife and just cut an edge to each of the teeth. It might seem like a pain, especially if you've got 12 or more teeth on there, but it's worth doing, to be fair. Alright, so here's another knockoff toy car I've got. Completely unbranded, just made in China, and it's meant to be some fire maintenance vehicle, but I stuck on this little crane arm because the firefighting one had come off, it had gone missing, and that was pretty easy to make out of bits of plastic. And yeah, again, you can just stick those on. I mean, you could cut these in half and mount them on the side, but I quite like these as the sort of longer reaching, buzzards from the Mad Max film look. And here it is, painted up with a lovely smiley face and some wonderful checkerboard pattern decals, which are from a 40k orc kit. And yeah, I thought I'd do this one in Hazard Yellow. It could be for any team, really. But there you are. You guys have a nice day. You gotta have fun with it. Like, even cheap toys, even cheap toys you can make look good. Okay, so for our final technique, we only need one disc this time, but we will need a wheel or any circular shaped object. It's just Hot Wheels. Again, these are something that everyone has access to, like a 40k base. So just grab one, throw it roughly in the middle, pencil around it, and what we're going to do, we're going to take a little miniature hand drill and we're going to drill holes just below that pencil circle, and we're going to do this again in the 4 cardinal directions and then slowly fill up the gaps until it looks something like this, with holes going all the way around it. And again, this takes a bit longer, but it is worth it in the end. Okay, so now we're just cutting on the right hand side of each circle, straight down. We're cutting a line. Think of it like we're cutting a P shape in all the way around this. So for each circle, right hand side of the circle, just a line straight down. And then to the left of that, we're going to connect the circle up to the line to the left of the circle. So the best way to describe this is just by looking at it. So you can see with this first one that I'm cutting, straight away, there you go. That's a circular saw tooth. Now I've sped this next bit up, but you can see very clearly that this process is immediately apparent what it is you're making, and it's very satisfactory and it's really cool, the end result. And there is a risk of making some of the teeth a bit too thin and some of them a bit too thick, but with time and practice you can make some really good looking circular saw blades this way. And you can scale it down, you just need to make the holes smaller and less of them, and make the teeth smaller as well. But here's one that I made earlier, and here's a third one that I made when I tried to just eyeball drilling the circles in a rough circular shape. I didn't even use a wheel, so that third one's pretty rough. I won't be using that, but it's a learning experience, and you shouldn't like throw those things away, because it'll be useful. But yeah, you can see this, it takes a bit longer, it takes a bit more skill, but oh my goodness, this is an effective technique for making circular saw blades. And I'm surprised I don't see more people doing it. I see people in like the Warhammer community doing this sort of stuff, especially with orcs. But yeah, when it comes to Mad Max cars, some of these techniques, they're super easy and they've been around forever. Like, I didn't invent any of these, you know. I'm just saying, like, this is stuff that I've seen over the years, and here it is. Okay, so I've got this super cool Hot Wheels car to put them on. It has this great kind of groove running straight down the middle of the car that ever since I saw it was just asking for circular saw blades or some sort of chainsaw to be created to fill that space. And here it is, painted up. Yeah, and I decided, okay, so we've got the Gaslands Warden car, we've got the kind of generic Raider, insane sort of highway maintenance truck. What about like something a bit more futuristic, a bit more dark future? So I went for the sort of, you know, very patriotic red, white, and blue color scheme, very dull grey, sort of silver for the circular saw blades. But again, you can see just how simple and easy these effects can be and what they can do for these cars. It's this is what I want to see from the community. I want to see more stuff that people can make by hand, as well as like companies like Zynga Industries. Guys, you've got to release a kit with like more than one circular saw blade. Come on. We want this stuff and we can do it ourselves, but you know, it'd be nice to have professionally made, you know, computer aided, constructed buzzsaw blades. All right, guys. Well, thank you for watching. And hey, if you like the video, leave a like and a comment and all that good stuff. A massive thank you to the guys over at the V2A post-apocalyptic Wasteland metal band. You know, without them, I wouldn't have the new music for this channel. So thank you so much, though, guys. A massive, massive shout out and thank you to Jon Montgomery of the Gaslands community for doing the new channel logo, the new JH Miniatures logo. Like I'm not good enough to draw something like that. I'm not talented enough to be able to make something like that. But he did it for free, for nothing. He was just like, hey, you know, you want a new logo? Well, here it is. And it's so professional, and I couldn't have asked for anything better. Thank you so much, Jon. And yes, thank you guys for watching. Always remember to check out our sponsors. Well, they're not really sponsors, they're just guys that gave me free bits sometime. But you can get a 10% off your orders at Green Miniatures. Their Mad Car line is absolutely insane. And Kyamsil Designs if you just use the code JH Miniatures. That's 10% off. 10% off your order. That's pretty good. And it's still going. It's been like 6 months. We've still got this going. So check them out. Thank you, V2A, and thank you so much, Jon Montgomery. Thank you all, and have a nice day.